Alright, guys, so we're back, and I'm just going to make this into a whole series where I rank different positions. So we did midfielders last time. Today we are going to do wingers. So, again, it's the same categories as with the midfielders. We have world class, very good, good, decent, average. Hasn't played, again, just for players that I don't think have played enough for me to judge them fairly. And then awful, which you already know who goes there. So, again, just go through these in order, place them wherever. Make sure you let me know what you guys think in the comments. So we're gonna start with Jack Grealish. For me, he goes into very good. I don't think he's world class, but I still think he is a very, very good player. I think in terms of maintaining possession, in terms of controlling the game, I think he's actually really exceptional. I think as a ball carrier, he is one of the best around. His dribbling is fantastic, but I just don't think he's done enough in terms of consistency to put him, in a world class level. He played a big role in Man City winning the treble. This season, he hasn't really done much of anything. He's been all right, but I think he deserves to go into very good. Next up, we have Phil Foden. Now, there's obviously a big conversation going around, Saka versus Foden. Who's better? Are one of them world class? Are both of them world class? Are neither of them world class? My opinion is that they are both world class. I think Foden, I wouldn't have put him in world class before this season because I think before this season, we didn't really see how he could do when he's the main guy. He was always, there was De Bruyne and Haaland and Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, Grealish, all these other players kind of ahead of him, and he was just kind of getting rotated in and out with them. But I think this season we've seen him really evolve to where he is functioning. De Bruyne was out injured, Haaland's been out injured, where he is kind of the main guy at Man City right now. And so we got to put him in world class. Um, but yeah, I think there might be a conversation to be had since this is the first time we're ever seeing him do it. But I think he's been kind of knocking on the door for a while. And this season, I think we've seen him do enough to where I think he deserves to be called world class. Next up, we got Cole Palmer. For me, he is good. I get why he left Man City. I don't think he'd be getting very much game time again with people like Foden and Grealish ahead of him. But he's gone to Chelsea and he's done really, really well for himself. He's one of the few Chelsea players that I think can hold his head up in terms of his performance this season. And he's been a bit of a surprise player. I don't think anyone expected him to be as good as he's been. And so yeah, we have to give him some credit for that. Next up, we have Gabriel Martinelli. I love Gabriel Martinelli. I don't think he's world class. I think if he carried on his form from last season, he would undoubtedly be world class because he was operating at a world class level last season. This season, I think, is being a difficult season for him. He has dropped off in terms of his performances, but I still think he's absolutely exceptional. I think in terms of directness, in terms of finishing, he is absolutely fantastic, and I really want Arsenal to give him the ball more because I think if we get him the ball, get him in goal scoring positions, he will deliver in this title run in. So he goes in very good for me. Can't discredit what he did last season. And even this season, when it's been kind of a down year for him, he still managed to produce a decent amount. So next up, we have Saka, easy world class. For me, there's no debate. He's better than Foden. He is undeniably a world class player, and I just think that if you look at what he's done over the last couple of years, being the main guy at Arsenal, dragging Arsenal through, our worst period in 30 odd years, the numbers he's put up Last season, third most goal involvements. Only one of two players to get double-digit goals and assists. And then this season, again, another season where he's hit 20 plus goal involvements, and we haven't even played 30 games yet. So, absolutely outstanding. Again, another player that, unlike Foden, who's been kind of rotated around and rested and all this, Saka has been the main guy. He's been, you know, pulling Arsenal along for 3-4 years. And so, for me, he's easily world class, and there's not even a conversation to be had. I think if you don't consider him world class, you have absolutely no ball knowledge. So, next up we have Trossard. For me, Trossard goes into good. I actually think Trossard is better as a central player, as a midfielder or a false nine. But I think that as a winger, again, he's still okay. I think he lacks that directness. He lacks that ability 1v1 that Saka and Martinelli have. Again, he's a very good player for retaining possession. I think he's extremely press resistant. He doesn't lose the ball very often, doesn't give it away. And again, I've talked about this. He's not the most exciting to watch, but he's a player that always contributes, whether it's goals, assists, key passes, whatever, whatever you want to measure it by. He's someone who always is kind of in and around there contributing, even if he's not the flashiest or most exciting. But for me, he hasn't really hit that top level yet, so I'm going to put him in good. Next up, we got Rashford. We can just do these three together. Rashford, average. Last season he had a good 3 months after the World Cup, and that was basically it. Since then, he's been awful. Before then, he was awful. I just think he's done enough to show that he doesn't deserve to go in the awful category. Because he has shown that he can be a really quality player. Even at points this season, I think he's been all right, but distinctly average. One of the most overrated players in the Premier League, in my opinion. Next up, Anthony. Plain and simple, the biggest waste of money in Premier League history. This guy is atrocious. He's 2 goals this season, 0 in the Premier League. He is so bad. It is honestly kind of funny. Jadon Sancho was so bad he didn't even get on the pitch for Man United. He's banned after 3 games for the whole Twitter spat with Ten Hag, and now he's in Dortmund. And he's actually playing well for Dortmund, but while he was in the Premier League, he was atrocious. But then again, he only played like 2 games this season, so we got to put him in hasn't played. Same thing with Harvey Barnes. This one I think is very unfortunate because I actually do think he's a good player. One of the few Leicester City players that can hold his head up after last season. But it's been very unfortunate with the injury, and he's missed so much because I think Newcastle have missed him. I think he's a talented player. Again, a player who's kind of direct. He's a good goal scorer. He's got very good end product in terms of his final ball, his shots. He's good. He's all right. But, again, hasn't really played too much this season. Almiron, atrocious. I'm sorry. Again, had a good, purple patch last season. Hasn't produced anything before or after. This season, he's been, which, again, is what we're mainly judging them on. He's been awful, plain and simple. Newcastle have had a bad season, but Almiron has been terrible. Jacob Murphy has been injured for like the vast majority of the season, so we just got to put him in there. Next up, we have Anthony Gordon. Very interesting one, this. I'm going to put him in good. I think, again, in terms of end product, he's really producing well. He's got, I think, 9 or 10 goals in the Premier League this season. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh with this one. You guys will have to let me know. I'm going to put him in good. But yeah, I'm going to keep him in good, but you guys let me know. I think I might be being a bit harsh with this one. Next up, we have Salah, easy world class for me, best winger in the Premier League. One of the best wingers in Premier League history, multiple times Golden Boot winner, Premier League winner, Champions League winner. He's done it all. He's won it all. A staple of the Jurgen Klopp era of Liverpool. I think he's in line for Liverpool's best ever player. I know it's pretty hard to compete with Steven Gerrard, but if there's anyone who can do it, it's Mo Salah. I just think Salah is absolutely amazing. Best African player in Premier League history. I think he beats out Mane. He beats out Drogba. I think, Salah's he's just incredible, I think. And easy world class for me. Next up, we got Luis Diaz. For me, Diaz goes into very good. He isn't at that world class level yet. Because for me, again, it's just the consistency. I think last season was unfortunate with the injury. But I think this season, I don't think he's been operating at quite a world class level. He's been close. I still think he's a fantastic player, but again, it's just the consistency. Saka's been doing it for, 2 years at this point. Salah's been doing it for 5 or 6 years. So, Luis Diaz, very good player, not world class for me personally. Next up, we have Kaoru Mitoma. Now, this one is really tricky because last season he was up here. He was outstanding last season. This season, I think he's really fallen off. I'm going to put him in good. I think in terms of dribbling and his technique on the ball, I think he's one of the best in the world. I genuinely think he's outstanding. But I just don't see it from him this season. I know he's had injury issues, like most of Brighton's players, but I think again at a certain point you have to judge a player based on what they are delivering right now, or what they have delivered in the recent past, rather than just kind of how flashy they are or how fun they are to watch. You have to actually look at what they're producing for their team. So, in that regards, I don't think that Mitoma's done enough, but still a fantastic player. I still love Mitoma. Solly March is decent. He's nothing really special in my opinion. He's just a solid, decent Premier League winger. Does all right. But again, there's nothing really special. Next up, we got Moussa Diaby, and this one really disappoints me because I think Diaby has all the talent in the world. I think he is one of the most explosive, the most energetic players in the Premier League. I think his 1v1 ability, his dribbling is so good, but he's had objectively a pretty disappointing season, and I'm going to put him in the good tier simply because I think that the way that he started off really, really well, but then he kind of dropped off and Leon Bailey came into the team and actually took his place. So I just think that you have to take some points off because when you consider, he came there for a decent amount of money and ended up losing his place in the team. I think that's just shows that he's been all right, but he's been a bit disappointing when you consider how good a player he actually is. Because I think he still had a good season, but I think it's just a little bit disappointing. I expected more out of him. Leon Bailey, for me, easy, goes into very good. I think he's absolutely fantastic. When you look at what he's done against the top teams this year, Man City twisted up Ruben Diaz. Against Arsenal, twisted up Gabriel. Probably gave Zinchenko nightmares for the next month. And again, when you're able to do it against those top-level teams, it shows that you can kind of operate at a really, really high level. And so Leon Bailey, I'd love it if Aston Villa got Champions League this year. Because again, I think players like him really deserve the chance to perform on the biggest stage because I think he can do it. We've seen him, you know, absolutely dominate big teams. So I think, yeah, I love Leon Bailey. I think he's absolutely exceptional. Next up, we have Kulusevski. Again, an okay player, but is really nothing special. I think there was a lot of hype around him when he first joined Tottenham. Fortunately, the hype's died down, rightfully so, in my opinion. He just doesn't really offer anything too special to a team. Again, maybe a bit biased because I hate Tottenham, but I just don't really see what he brings to that team. I don't see him contribute with many goals, many assists. He's not one of these players that can kind of just like cause chaos. Because even someone like Martinelli, for example, he can have a bad game, not score, not assist, but what he offers you is pace, running, intensity. I don't really see that from Kulusevski. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in decent. I still think he's a good player, just not really anything fantastic. Son is easy, world class in my opinion. Again, like Salah has been doing it for a number of years. I know he had an off season last season, but still, Premier League Golden Boot winner. And what he's doing this season, he's kind of dragging a pretty, if we're being 100% honest, a pretty mediocre Tottenham team to maybe a Champions League finish, which would be absolutely exceptional. And yeah, I just think he's another player that I think deserves to leave Tottenham, go somewhere where he can win trophies. Because, everyone talks about Kane, Kane deserved the move, he deserved to get out. But Son has been right there with Kane for all these years, dragging Tottenham to second place. But yeah, he just deserves to get out there and actually be first, actually be a champion, win something. I'd love to see him at like a Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, AC Milan, one of those kind of clubs that does compete at a top level for kind of top level trophies. So yeah, Son is easy world class for me. I absolutely love Son, and yeah, for me he goes into world class. Next up, we got Eze and Elise. Now, Elise, tricky one for me. This is so difficult because I'm gonna put him in very good, and I'm gonna put. Does Eze go in there? No, I think I'm gonna put Eze in good. I think Elise just has that little extra bit of kind of sort of dazzling, kind of Hollywood flashy ability that Eze, I don't think he always does. But that's so difficult. It's so difficult. You know what? I'm going to put Eze in very good as well. I think, what they've managed to produce at Crystal Palace is outstanding. Last season, Elise finished with, however many, what was it? 11 assists, I think it was, as they finished with 10 goals. They've been absolutely amazing. This season, I think, you know what? Actually, both of them go in good. I changed my mind again. They both go in good. Because this season, I don't think they've been as consistent. They've had their injury issues, but yeah, I think it's been a slight drop off from them. I mean, I think it's been a drop off for Crystal Palace as a team. I think they've had a very poor season as a team, but again, I think Eze and Elise just haven't been producing what they were last season. So yeah, we got to put them in good because I don't think I would absolutely take Leon Bailey over Michael Elise any day. So I think that's kind of how we got to view it. Or, I'd take him over Elise as well. So, that's kind of how I think we have to view this. So they both go into good. Next up, we have Sterling. Average. Just average for me. I don't think he's when he was at Man City, he was world class. But I don't think that since he's moving to Chelsea, he's just fallen off a cliff. He doesn't do anything anymore. He doesn't impact the game. He'll have the good performance, odd good performance against Man City, or I think against Arsenal he was pretty decent. But apart from that, he doesn't offer anything. He doesn't really do anything. He's just an average player in my opinion now. Mudryk, plain and simple, if Anthony didn't exist, Mudryk would be the biggest waste of money in Premier League history. Uh, you know, just really unfortunate that this kid had so much talent and it was ruined by an absolute failure of a club like Chelsea. But, that's the way it is sometimes, which again, it's harsh, but it's reality. I don't think Mudryk. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to fulfill his potential now. Who knows? Maybe he goes to a proper club in a year, and he is able to unlock his potential and kind of rebuild his career. But if he stays at Chelsea, he's going to be absolutely terrible. Next up, we got Pedro Neto. For me, Neto does go into very good because of, I think, what he's done this season. You can't really ignore. Last season he was very unfortunate with the injuries, but this season he's come back with a bang. Again, he's had injury issues this season as well, but he's managed to produce. He's been outstanding. Again, just another player that, in terms of his directness, his pace, his creativity, he's got 9 assists this season. Absolutely exceptional from Pedro Neto. And so we got to put him in very good. Same thing with Jared Bowen, in my opinion. I think Bowen, when you look at his goals, I know he's played down the middle a bit this season, but just when you look at his goals, the numbers he's putting up, he's the third or fourth highest scorer in the Premier League. He's putting up insane numbers, and he's really been part of a resurgence. Let's be honest, at West Ham, a team that I think everyone thought was going to really, really struggle this season, and they haven't. They've been absolutely amazing, and Bowen is one of the reasons why. So. Next up, we got Benrahma, barely played, and now he's at Lyon. So, just going to go there. Next up, we have Garnacho. For me, he is decent. I don't really get all the hype around him. I mean, I know he scored that bicycle kick, but, I just don't see him. I see him becoming a very, very good player. I don't see him becoming, world class. I don't see him becoming, like one of the best wingers in the Premier League. I just don't see that happening. So, yeah. But I still think he's decent. He's got... Again, he's not had a great season apart from that bicycle kick, but the talent is absolutely there for Garnacho. And lastly, we have Madueke. Again, an average player. Complete waste of money by Chelsea. I don't even know why they bought him. But, yeah, I don't think he's been as bad as Mudryk or Anthony, but he's still not being fantastic. So we're going to have to put him in the average category. So anyways, let's go through. Is there anything I want to change? For me, the only difficult one is Eze and Elise. I think it's very, very kind of a toss-up between very good and good. But I'm going to stick with putting them in good just because I think they've dropped off this season. So, anything else? No, I think the list looks pretty good. Make sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments. And we're going to be going through, like I said, all the positions. So, center backs, strikers, goalkeepers, fullbacks. We're going to have all that done in the next couple days. And so, I will see you all in a bit.